Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, spent just over 2 years on death row, their names sparking fear and controversy across America. To understand how this couple ended up facing the electric chair, we need to rewind to where their story began. A tale of love, loyalty, and a world caught in Cold War paranoia. Before we proceed, please take a moment to like and subscribe to be part of our growing community, and drop a comment telling us how old you were when you first heard their story. Julius Rosenberg was born on May 12, 1918, in New York City. The son of Russian Jewish immigrants, growing up on the Lower East Side, his family lived in a cramped tenement, scraping by, as his father worked as a garment presser. Julius was a bright, curious boy, drawn to science and ideas from an early age. At school he excelled in math and physics, but he also found a passion for politics, joining the Young Communist League as a teenager. The Great Depression hit hard, and Julius saw communism as a way to fight poverty and injustice, shaping his fiery idealism. Ethel Greenglass, born on September 28, 1915, also grew up in New York's Lower East Side, just a few blocks from Julius. Her family, also Jewish immigrants, struggled to make ends meet. Ethel's father ran a small repair shop, while her mother kept the household together. Ethel was a strong-willed, artistic child, with dreams of becoming an actress or singer. After graduating high school in 1931, she took a job as a clerk at a shipping company, where she joined a workers' union and became active in the Communist Party. Her passion for social justice burned bright, and she wasn't afraid to speak her mind. In 1936, Julius and Ethel's paths crossed at a Young Communist League meeting. Julius, then 18, was instantly smitten by the 21-year-old Ethel's sharp intellect and bold spirit. Ethel admired Julius's quiet determination and shared his vision for a fairer world. They bonded over late-night debates about politics, music, and their dreams of change. Their connection grew fast, rooted in shared ideals and a deep sense of purpose. In 1939, they married in a simple ceremony, ready to face the world together as partners in love and activism. By then, Julius had earned an electrical engineering degree from City College, and Ethel supported him as they started a family, welcoming 2 sons, Michael in 1943 and Robert in 1947. Their modest apartment buzzed with political discussions, but no one could predict how their beliefs would lead them to a trial that would shake the nation. Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were convicted of conspiracy to commit espionage, a crime that unfolded not in a single dramatic moment, but through a secretive network of actions during the late 1940s at the height of the Cold War. The United States and the Soviet Union were locked in a tense rivalry, with fears of nuclear secrets slipping into enemy hands dominating the era. The Rosenbergs, both committed communists, were accused of passing classified information about atomic bomb technology to the Soviets, a charge that carried immense weight in a nation gripped by anti-communist paranoia. The crime began in 1944, when Julius, an electrical engineer, allegedly started working as a courier for Soviet intelligence. According to prosecutors, he used his connections from the Young Communist League and his engineering background to gather sensitive information. Ethel's brother, David Greenglass, a machinist at the Los Alamos laboratory where the atomic bomb was developed, became a key figure. Greenglass claimed Julius recruited him to share classified details about the Manhattan Project, including sketches of a high-explosive lens used in the bomb. Julius, prosecutors said, passed these materials to Soviet agents, often in covert meetings in New York City. One method involved using a torn Jell-O box as a recognition signal to ensure safe exchanges with Soviet contacts. Ethel's role was less direct, but critical, according to the government. She allegedly typed notes and encouraged Greenglass's involvement, acting as a supportive partner in the conspiracy. The motive was ideological. The Rosenbergs believed communism offered a better future and saw the Soviet Union as an ally against fascism. They viewed sharing atomic secrets as a way to level the global playing field, preventing the U.S. from holding a nuclear monopoly. Their actions weren't driven by greed or personal gain, but by a deep, if misguided, commitment to their political ideals. No lives were directly taken, but the potential consequences of their actions, arming a rival nation with nuclear knowledge, were seen as catastrophic, amplifying the severity of their crime in the eyes of the government and the public. The Rosenbergs' downfall began in 1950 when the FBI unraveled a Soviet spy ring through a chain of confessions. The investigation started with Klaus Fuchs, a British scientist at Los Alamos, who admitted to passing atomic secrets to the Soviets. Fuchs pointed to his courier, Harry Gold, who was arrested in May 1950. Gold, under pressure, named David Greenglass as another source of information. Greenglass, arrested on June 15, 1950, quickly confessed and implicated his sister Ethel and brother-in-law Julius, claiming they orchestrated the espionage. His testimony was pivotal, supported by his wife, Ruth, who corroborated details of meetings and exchanges. The FBI moved swiftly. On July 17, 1950, agents arrested Julius at the Rosenbergs' apartment in New York City. He was calm, but refused to confess, denying any involvement in espionage. Ethel was arrested a month later, on August 11, 1950, after testifying before a grand jury. She, too, remained steadfast, maintaining her innocence. The couple was held without bail. Their young sons left in the care of relatives. Key evidence included Greenglass's testimony, sketches he claimed to have given Julius, and accounts of covert meetings. While no physical proof directly tied Ethel to passing documents, her role as an accomplice was emphasized by prosecutors. Critics later argued the evidence was thin, heavily reliant on Greenglass's word, which he may have exaggerated to secure leniency for himself. Do you think Greenglass sold them out or threw them under the bus? Hit that subscribe button if you're still following. The trial began in March 1951 in New York's federal court. The Rosenbergs faced charges of conspiracy to commit espionage, not treason, as the U.S. was not at war with the Soviet Union. The prosecution painted them as traitors who endangered national security, while the defense argued the case was built on weak testimony and Cold War hysteria. The jury, swayed by the era's fear of communism, convicted both. On April 5, 1951, the judge sentenced them to death, a harsh penalty, reflecting the case's political weight. The Rosenbergs' arrest and trial became a flashpoint, with their supporters claiming they were scapegoats in a climate of fear, while others saw their conviction as a necessary stand against espionage. Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were held at Sing Sing Prison in Ossining, New York, after their conviction in April 1951, spending just over 2 years on death row. The prison, a looming fortress along the Hudson River, was known for its harsh conditions and high security, especially for death row inmates. The Rosenbergs were kept in separate cells in the dance hall, the grim nickname for Sing Sing's death row, where concrete walls and steel bars created an oppressive atmosphere. Their cells were small, about 5 by 8 feet, with a cot, a sink, and a toilet. The air was heavy with the constant clanging of doors and the murmurs of other inmates facing similar fates. Julius, described as calm and intellectual, spent his days reading books on history and science, often supplied by supporters or his legal team. He wrote letters to Ethel, their sons, and their lawyer, expressing hope that their appeals would succeed. He maintained his innocence, framing their case as a product of political persecution. Ethel, in her own cell, was more emotionally expressive, writing heartfelt letters to her young sons, Michael and Robert, urging them to stay strong. She read poetry and novels, finding solace in literature, and occasionally sang softly to herself, a nod to her early dreams of performing. Neither showed remorse for espionage. Both insisted they were unjustly targeted for their communist beliefs. The couple's interactions with guards were polite. Julius was cooperative, engaging in brief, intellectual discussions when guards allowed it. Ethel, though frail from the stress of imprisonment, was resolute, earning respect from some staff for her composure. They had limited contact with other inmates, but outside, they became a cause célèbre, supporters rallying for clemency while others demanding their execution. The Rosenbergs filed multiple appeals, arguing the evidence was weak and the death penalty disproportionate, especially for Ethel, whose role was less clear. They never turned to religion, remaining committed to their secular, ideological principles. Despite global protests and pleas from figures like Albert Einstein, their appeals failed, with the U.S. Supreme Court declining to intervene. On June 19, 1953, the day of their execution, the Rosenbergs woke early in their separate cells at Sing Sing. The morning was tense, the prison buzzing as news of their impending execution drew reporters and protesters outside. Julius spent his final hours writing a last letter to his sons, urging them to live with courage and to know their parents loved them. Ethel, too, wrote to her children, her words tender, but firm, expressing hope that they would grow up in a better world. Their lawyer, Emmanuel Bloch, visited briefly, offering comfort but no new hope, as last-minute appeals had been denied. No family members were allowed to see them that day, a decision that deepened their isolation. For their last meal, served around noon, Julius requested a simple lunch of cold cuts, salad, and coffee. He ate little, his mind fixed on the looming execution. Ethel asked for chicken soup, a sandwich, and tea, but she barely touched the food, her appetite diminished by anxiety. As evening approached, they were allowed a brief meeting. Their first in months, they held hands through the bars, speaking quietly of their love, and their sons. Both were composed, though Ethel's eyes were red from crying. At 8 p.m., the execution process began. The Rosenbergs were to be executed by electric chair, a method used at Sing Sing for its efficiency, though it carried a grim reputation. Julius went first. At 8, he was led into the execution chamber, a stark room with a wooden chair and heavy straps. He sat calmly, his face pale but resolute, as electrodes were attached to his head and leg. Witnesses, including reporters and officials, watched in silence. Julius said no final words, only nodding slightly to the chaplain present. At 8:06 p.m., the first jolt of electricity was administered. After 3 shocks, he was pronounced dead at 8:08 p.m. Ethel followed shortly after. At 8:11 p.m., she was escorted into the same chamber, her small frame trembling but her expression defiant. She too declined to make a formal statement, though she whispered a brief farewell to her lawyer, asking him to care for her sons. The straps were tightened, the electrodes applied. At 8:16 p.m., the execution began. But complications arose. Ethel's heart continued beating after the initial shocks, requiring additional jolts. She was pronounced dead at 8:20 p.m. The room was silent. The execution of Julius and Ethel Rosenberg remains one of the most polarizing moments in American history. Were the Rosenbergs traitors who endangered the world, or were they victims of a nation consumed by Cold War paranoia? What do you think? Did their punishment fit the crime, or was it a miscarriage of justice, driven by the politics of fear? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next video.